with B&R Computers. Today's webinar is about backups and how they could be lying to you. Why most business backups fail when you need them the most. So the truth is, a lot of businesses will say, oh, we've got backups. They go off every night or they go off once a week. But most businesses find out too late that it doesn't actually work. Having a backup and having a working backup are two different things. Most businesses only discover the difference at the worst possible moment when you need to restore, after a ransomware attack or hardware failure. So 58% of small to medium businesses that lose data shut down within 6 months. 96% of businesses that have a tested disaster recovery plan survive. And 3 hours is the average return to operation expectation versus days of actual recovery. So we hear a lot that businesses say we've got backups. They happen every night. And then we had one incident where a business came to us to change providers because their current IT provider was doing backups. The business got hit with ransomware. And then at that point, they found out that the backups weren't successful for weeks. So they couldn't restore any of their data. And ultimately, they lost 20 years worth of history because they lost everything on their computers. So having a backup and having a tested backup are two different things. If you're not testing your backups, you may as well not have any backups at all because you don't know if they're going to work. So what we're covering today, the first thing is why backups fail, the gap between we have a backup and we can actually recover, and why most businesses are in that gap. The 4 ways your business is lying, the 4 ways your backup is lying: untested restores, ransomware that encrypts backups, incomplete coverage, and the off-site problem. And then what a real backup plan looks like: the 3-2-1 rule, air-gapped copies, tested recovery, and what RTO, RPO actually means for your business. So there's a difference between having a backup and being able to recover. Most businesses discover that their backups don't work during a ransomware attack or hardware failure when they're trying to restore. And at this point, it's already too late to fix the problem. So the 3 questions that your backup can answer right now. When did someone last successfully restore a file from your backup? If you can't answer this, you don't have a working backup, you have a backup process. If ransomware encrypted your systems tonight, would it also encrypt and have access to encrypting your backups? Most cloud synced backups are encrypted by ransomware alongside the live data. So you've got to have a ransomware resistant backup method. And how long would it actually take your business to get back online after a failure? Business owners, they expect it's going to be hours. But in reality, typically it's days and sometimes weeks, depending on the process and what the business was, how prepared the business was. So your backups exist, but that doesn't mean that they work. If you've never tested your backup, that's how backups that have never been tested have a failure rate of up to 50%. A backup is a promise, not a tested proof. Ransomware can reach your backup. So if your backup is connected to the same network or cloud account, ransomware encrypts it alongside everything else. So again, you've got to have a ransomware resistant backup method. Number 3, you're only backing up some things, whether it's email, cloud apps, databases, or line of business software. They're frequently missed. The partial backup means you're only going to get a partial recovery. So you've got to have everything backed up in order to have a full, return to operations recovery. Number 4, you have no offsite or air-gapped copy. Once backup or one copy on site means that a fire, a flood, or even a physical theft can take your backup and your data at the same time. So that's why it's critical that an air-gapped copy is something that is off-site or totally independent of the physical location. So a backup that you can't recover from is not a backup, it's a false sense of security. The 3-2-1 rule is the industry standard. If you follow it, you test it, and ransomware loses its leverage over you completely. So the 3-2-1 is the minimum standard. So you've got 3 copies of your data. So one is the primary, which means your data that's on the computers or your servers. And then you've got two backups. And typically that'll be a backup on site and then a backup offsite. So redundancy ensures that one failure doesn't mean a total loss. And then there's two different media types. So if you have a local backup as part of the 3-2-1 rule, you're using local drive storage. And then the other one would be cloud storage, backing up to the cloud. The alternative would be if you're using a network storage device, also known as a NAS, plus tape. Tape's not really as well. Tape is making a bit of a comeback because it is, it's a tried and true method that has always worked. So in some instances, tape is actually making a comeback. So different media fails in different ways. So when you've got different media types saving your data, it helps the redundancy and it helps the security and safety of being able to recover. And then one offsite or air-gapped backup, physically separated from your network. Ransomware and fires can't reach what isn't connected. So basically, starting at the top, you've got the primary data that's on the computers, and then you've got two backups. And those two backups can be local and cloud, NAS and tape, or any combination of those four, and maybe even more. And then one of those backups should be physically separated from the building, from the business. Whether it goes home with the owner of the business every night, or you take it to a safe deposit box at the bank. So for safekeeping, there's got to be a physical separation of a backup so that it's not vulnerable to the different methods. And test your restore at least quarterly. An untested backup is not a backup. I typically say I like to do monthly because quarterly is still allowing a pretty large gap. I mean, think about, if I, like right now, so it's July 16th. If I was testing my backups quarterly, say at the end of this quarter, I have a failure. Well, I would be restoring my backup. If there was an issue in the meantime, my restore point would be in July from September. So a quarterly backup, I mean, at least it's something, but I prefer at least monthly backup testing because then if something happens to backups, you're only going to lose a month. Could you actually recover if ransomware hit tonight? So this is the reality check. When did someone last successfully restore a file or system from your backup? If you can't answer with a specific date, you've got an untested backup, so you're living on a hope and prayer. Is your backup stored separately from your main systems, not just a synced cloud folder? So OneDrive, Dropbox, Google Drive backups, they can be encrypted by ransomware. So they are not true backups. And quite frankly, they're typically file level storage. So a true backup would be a full backup of the computer. Because if something happens to the computer, we'll go with hardware failure. So if you have a hardware failure on a computer and you were using OneDrive for storage, the first thing you got to do is fix the computer, reinstall all the software, which typically takes hours, and then connect the OneDrive, which will resync the files. So that's still hours worth of time if all goes well. If you've got a full backup to restore from a backup of the computer, it cuts the restore time down to maybe an hour. And then you don't have to reinstall everything. And when you restore, all your files are there. So having a full computer backup is a lot safer and a lot quicker than just doing file storage on the cloud. And then does your backup include everything? And actually, I think this kind of goes along with what I just said. Email, cloud apps, databases, and business software. So if you're only doing a partial coverage, like file level storage in the previous example, you may lose what matters most. If you're doing file level storage and you're a financial business using QuickBooks, unless that QuickBooks file lives in the OneDrive folder, it's not being backed up. So if that drive fails or Windows becomes corrupt or something happens, you're going to lose that QuickBooks file. Do you have a documented recovery time objective? How long can you afford to be down? So without an RTO, you have no way to measure whether your backup is actually good enough. So the recovery time objective, most businesses want to have it within a few hours. The problem is there's a lot of variables that typically in worst case scenarios, it can take weeks to get a business back up and running. So with all that said, one thing that we do offer is a business risk review. It's a free 30-minute call. We ask a series of questions to gauge what you know, what you've got in place currently. And then from there, we identify any gaps, if there are any, and we will put together a summary of the conversation. And at the end of that summary, it'll have actionable items. And what some business owners do is they have the risk review call. We provide the summary with the actionable items. And then if they've already got an IT provider, they take that information back to them and the IT provider resolves it. Or some business owners, they want to try to do it themselves. So they take the actionable items and fix them themselves. The third option is obviously we can do all of that. So, if we have a risk review call and we uncover that there's gaps, we can always help resolve that and make a better plan moving forward. Now, if there are no gaps and you've got everything covered and everything is good to go, we'll tell you that too. It's not a sales pitch. It's not a change your IT provider pitch. It's a truthfully honest, straightforward review of your business. And we provide the straightforward answers so that in the end, you can be a better protected business, whether we get any business out of it or not. We just would rather you be protected and your legacy and your livelihood so that you can keep operating going forward. If you're interested in a business risk review call, go to businessrisk.b&rcomputers.com. It's there on the screen. Or feel free to give a call, send an email. We're always available to chat. And we'd be happy to have a call with you and see where there may be some risks in your business. Appreciate your time today. And I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.